You've been telling yourself you haven't found your voice yet. It sounds humble. It sounds like patience. And it's the most expensive sentence in your whole creative life because it gives you permission to never start. Here's what that phrase actually does to you. It takes a simple problem, you haven't made enough stuff yet, and quietly upgrades it into a problem about who you are. One is a volume issue. The other feels like a verdict. And you can't outweight a verdict. So you wait, you read more, you research more, you plan the channel, the brand, the perfect first piece. You're convinced the voice is out there somewhere, hiding. And one morning, you'll wake up and finally have it. Then you can begin. That morning isn't coming. The thing you're waiting for only shows up on the far side of the thing you're refusing to do. Let me show you where a voice actually comes from, because almost nobody describes this honestly. Think about a music producer you love. The first beats they ever made were derivative and thin. They borrowed someone else's drum pattern, someone else's melody, someone else's whole vibe. They knew it sounded like a copy. They posted it anyway. 200 tracks later, something in the work started sounding like nobody but them. They produced their way into it, one mediocre loop at a time. That's the part the label hides from you. Voice is a byproduct. It's residue. It's what's left over after you've made so much work that your own instincts start outvoting your influences. There's a threshold of output, and it sits past a wall of stuff you'll be a little embarrassed by. Every domain has its own number. Nobody has ever reached that number while waiting to feel ready first. So the cruel joke writes itself. The label, "I haven't found my voice yet," stops the one behavior that would ever produce a voice: publishing a lot before the work is good. It protects you from the exact reps that were going to save you. And I get why it's tempting. Putting out work that isn't good feels like lying about who you are. You can see the gap between what you made and what you can taste. That gap is real. Let's sit in it for a second, because it's the whole game. The gap is the most honest signal you have. It means your taste runs ahead of your skill. Good. That's the correct order. If your taste lagged behind, you'd be making garbage and loving it, and you'd never climb. The discomfort you feel posting work that's beneath your standards, that's the tuition. But here's the trap most ambitious people fall into. They try to close that gap privately. In the drafts folder, in the unpublished projects, in the notebook nobody reads. They think, I'll get good in private, then go public once I've found it. It doesn't work, and the reason is mechanical. Private work has no feedback loop. You can't see what lands. You can't feel which sentence makes someone stop scrolling, which idea gets repeated back to you, which thing you made by accident at 1 a.m. is actually the realest thing you've ever done. Your voice is partly revealed by the collision between your work and real people. Lock the work away, and you starve it of the only oxygen that grows it. So what does the threshold look like in practice? Picture two people who start on the exact same day. The first, one waits. She's smart. She studies the greats, fills 3 notebooks with strategy, redesigns her logo twice, and tells everyone she's finding her angle. A year later, she has a beautiful plan and 0 published pieces. Her voice sits exactly where it started. Theoretical. The second one starts ugly. He ships something small every week, tracking each rep with a handful of friends on Pledge. Mastermind Circle. Link in the description. So a missed week actually costs him something. Week 1 is cringe. Week 10 is still rough, but the rough has a shape now. By week 40, strangers are quoting his lines back to him, lines he doesn't even remember writing because they came out so naturally. He wore a groove into the world by walking the same path a few hundred times. Same year, same starting point. One built a body of work, the other built a body of theory. The difference was reps in public. You already know which one you've been. There's a folder on your laptop right now. Half-finished things you keep meaning to polish before anyone sees. That folder is the most honest map of your fear that exists. Every file in it is a rep you took away from yourself. And I want to be precise about why the public part matters so much, because it's the piece people skip. When you publish, 3 things happen that can never happen in private. You commit, the thing is out, you can't unmake it, so your brain finally treats it as real. You get a reaction. Even silence is data, because silence on one thing and a flood on another teaches you where your edge actually is. And you raise the stakes just enough that next time you reach a little higher. Strip any of those out, and growth slows to a crawl. That's why the genius in the drafts folder stays a genius in the drafts folder forever. There's a phrase for what you're protecting when you wait, and it isn't quality. It's the fantasy of yourself. As long as you never ship, you get to believe the unmade work is brilliant. The drafts stay perfect because they stay imaginary. The second you publish, you trade that comfortable fantasy for a real number, a real reaction, a real piece of evidence about where you stand. That trade feels like a loss. It's the only thing that's ever moved anyone forward. Now, let me steel man the other side, because there's a real version of this objection. Someone's thinking, isn't there value in not flooding the world with junk? Shouldn't I respect my audience enough to wait until I'm good? Doesn't volume just mean noise? Fair. Here's where it holds and where it breaks. Volume without attention is just noise. You're right about that. The move is high volume with a tight loop. Make, ship, watch what happens, adjust, make again. Fast. The people who break through are getting to quality through quantity. In public, where the feedback is honest and immediate. Volume is the road. Quality is the destination. You don't get to skip the road by admiring the destination from your couch. And this is where it stops being about content and starts being about your whole life. The voice problem is the same engine running underneath everything. You keep deferring. The body you want? You haven't found your training style. So you've never trained long enough for a style to exist. The business you talk about? You're waiting to find your niche, which only ever reveals itself after you've sold something to someone and watched their face. The skill you're learning in private until you're good enough to charge for it, you'll be learning it in private forever, because good enough is a feeling that only arrives from the far side of getting paid and delivering anyway. Every one of these wears the same disguise, a volume problem, dressed up as an identity problem, so you get to feel thoughtful instead of feeling scared. It even sounds like wisdom at parties. So let's kill the disguise. Next time you catch yourself saying, "I haven't found my voice yet," translate it out loud into what it actually means. I haven't made enough yet, in public, for my own patterns to show up. Say it that way and the fix becomes obvious. The cure is output. What does that look like on Monday? Pick the smallest unit of the thing you make. 1 video, 1 track, 1 page, 1 client. Set a volume that scares you slightly. 1 a week, maybe more, and commit to a number of reps before you're allowed to judge whether you have a voice. 50, 100. Pick the number, then go silent on the question until you hit it. And ship before you're ready every single time. Ready is a feeling that's allergic to deadlines. The work running a little behind your taste is the entrance fee, paid 1 upload at a time. You'll look back at rep number 5 and wince. That wince is proof you grew, and you only earn it by leaving the evidence out where you can find it later. Here's the part nobody warns you about, and it's the best part. The voice, when it finally arrives, won't feel like a discovery. It'll be invisible to you. Other people will see it first. Someone will say, "This is so you," about a thing you made without thinking. And you'll be confused, because to you, it just felt like Tuesday. That's how you'll know it's real. You stopped reaching for it, and it became the floor you stand on. I want you to feel the cost of the alternative. Clearly, because it isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's a version of you, 5 years older, with a slightly nicer plan and the same empty shelf. Still patient, still searching. Still telling people you're almost ready to begin, The waiting feels responsible from the inside. That's exactly why it's dangerous. But you have leverage the waiting version of you will never touch, and it's free right now. It's the willingness to be bad in public on purpose. Most people refuse this. Their ego won't allow it. That refusal is your entire opening. The crowd is jammed at the starting line, all of them waiting to feel ready. And the gate has been open the whole time. You don't find your voice. You leave a trail of work behind you, and one day you turn around and realize the trail was the voice. And it only ever existed because you kept walking while everyone else was still lacing up. This is the whole reason the people you admire seem to have arrived fully formed. You found them at rep 300. You never saw the 299 that taught them how to sound like themselves. You're comparing your blank shelf to their finished one and calling the difference talent. It was never talent. It was a head start in shipping. And that's a gap you closed the same way they did, by starting now and refusing to stop. So make the bad thing today, then make the next one. The voice you're hunting isn't lost. It's sitting on the far side of 100 things you haven't built yet. And the only way over there is straight through the pile.